Welcome to Attitude of Altitude podcast presented by Planet of One. This podcast is designed to inspire change in people to become the best versions of themselves and live their best lives. We share stories of struggle and success to encourage and empower listeners to be bold, take action, and be the change we desire to see in this world. We are all part of this planet. We are all a planet of one. Know that your attitude determines your altitude in life. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to Attitude of Altitude. I am really glad to have with us today Dana Bristol-Smith, who is the founder of Lead to Success, which empowers women who are overcoming domestic violence, homelessness, and other major life challenges. I am so looking forward to this podcast. Welcome, Dana. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been looking forward to you being on here and sharing part of the journey of how you came to establish this Lead to Success and learning a little about you. So I'm going to give you carte blanche to just take us through your journey of how you arrived here.
Okay. Well, it was an idea that woke me up in the middle of the night one night. Actually, it actually wouldn't let me go to sleep. And I had been working with business professionals, helping them develop their speaking skills. And I had my own company that was called Speak for Success. And I worked with business leaders and sales professionals and other people who had to speak on behalf of their companies. And as you probably know, public speaking is, right up at the top of that fear list that people have, sometimes even, higher than flying, higher than snakes, but, maybe not higher than paying taxes. But it's this fear that people have, and it's this idea of being judged and this idea of, people having the mistaken belief that they have to be perfect. And if they're not, they're going to screw things up and that kind of thing. So a lot of that work is really helping people be comfortable with themselves and bringing their own inner confidence out. And the idea for Leap to Success was to work with women, and women whose voices were not being heard, and women who didn't have that confidence in themselves and really didn't have that sense of worthiness that they deserve to be someone who could be heard and who should be heard. And so this idea was to work with women who weren't using their voices, weren't feeling that sense of self-esteem and self-confidence. And that led me to work with domestic violence survivors, because not only were these women who weren't being heard, but women who had suffered abuse as the result of that. And women who, in most cases through no fault of their own, ended up being in a relationship with someone who took advantage of them and manipulated them. And in, some cases, physical abuse, many cases, emotional abuse. And it really seemed that these were the women that could benefit the most from this idea of helping them build self-confidence to really speak and be heard. And that was the idea that woke me up in the middle of the night. That was back in 2007. And it really has become my life's work to help empower women. And we've expanded since I founded Leap to Success. We became our own nonprofit in 2013, but we did the very first program in 2008 as a volunteer project. And just to see if this idea in helping women develop this self-confidence and their leadership skills to really become leaders in their own lives, and someone who would use their voice for themselves, for their children. Some of the women that we've worked with have become, advocates. They've become leaders. They've become instructors on our team. It's really been an extraordinary journey from that original idea in 2007 to where we are today in 2020, 13 years later. Leap to Success has grown and has empowered over 2,000 women here in San Diego County and getting ready to expand.
That's incredible. Were you noticing in the corporate settings that
women still didn't have their voices, even though they might have had positions of power? Is that why it prompted you to do this?
Yeah. Well, I worked with industries that were pretty male dominated.
Mm.
I worked with folks in technology. I worked, with biotech, and so like the men were the scientists, the men for the most part. So I mean, pretty male dominated. Also in kind of the upper echelon in financial services. And women in those fields really felt like they always had to be proving themselves, that they had to, do more work, that they had to be better than, and still many of them felt like they weren't being heard. So yeah, that definitely was one of the driving factors of this, because what I saw is that in those environments, when women did build their confidence and were able to display it through their public speaking skills, through giving presentations, they were looked at and listened to in a new way. They got more respect, they got promotions. And, in some cases, I think they've been holding themselves back. And in many cases, just the organizational culture was holding them back. So it's really a combination of things coming together. But it really started with them, developing their own confidence and being able to display it. And not let setbacks hold them back.
It is so crucial, the public speaking part. I used to run a public speaking club, and you could tell from everyone that comes in the fear of just standing up in front of someone and sharing something that's personal, that's about you, as if you're so different than everyone else. So I could see why teaching women that are even in domestic violence cases to get their voice out is so crucial. And you chose specifically domestic violence because it was in your dream, or is it something that you've seen people go through? What prompted you to do the domestic violence angle of it?
It was actually something that I was very naive about, because I didn't have my own personal experience of it and really didn't know a lot about it other than, what I hear on the news. I didn't know that I knew people that went through it. Like I said, I was very naive about it. But when I was sharing with a friend about this idea that I had and really wanting it to do good and really wanting it to be, of service. And this friend named Gail said, well, have you ever thought of working with domestic violence survivors? And I said, no, I never have. And she said, well, Dana, I think your idea could really do a lot of good for women who are survivors of domestic violence. And she just happened to know people who were here in San Diego in leadership with organizations that serve domestic violence survivors. And she made the introductions, and it just kind of took off like wildfire.
What have you learned? What have you learned from launching to today? Because obviously it's not the same as when you launched.
Well, what I've learned is, one of the things that I've learned is that having an idea is the easy part. Having an idea is the easy part. Developing a program is also the easy part. Finding your market, and this is if you're in the for-profit sector or in the nonprofit sector, finding your market is part of the hard part. Marketing to your target market is another part of the hard part. Your pricing in the for-profit sector, who's going to pay for it? How much are they going to pay? But in the nonprofit sector, so let's say you've developed your program, you found your audience, that it'll be a great fit, maybe you've tested it, but then the big question is, who's going to pay for it? So you have to become a fundraiser. You have to become a grant writer. You have to become someone very different than a program developer or even a program deliverer. Now you've got the fundraising hat on. And then once you start getting the funds in, how are you, a good steward of those funds? How do you develop a business plan and form your board of directors so that you can not only do your program now, but do it tomorrow, do it next year? How do you build your team? I mean, you're building an organization from the ground up. So that's the challenging part.
And how did you get through it yourself?
Oh, through lots of help and support, through asking a lot of questions, through taking classes, through, educating myself, reading books. I took some great classes through UCSD Extension. I had wonderful mentors, people who were in the field who I got to know. I enrolled in different leadership courses, one here in San Diego called Lead San Diego that was phenomenal, like a 10-month program with leaders from multiple sectors of business and industry and nonprofits and government. And I mean, you really have to become a very well-rounded business person in order to build an organization. And then, you become a fundraiser on top of that. Actually beneath that, because if you don't have the funds, you can't do anything unless you're going to be a full-time volunteer. And, that doesn't work financially for most people.
So when you started this vision and you built the program itself, you didn't have the vision of it being an organization and being at the level it is today, or did you from the beginning?
In the very beginning, I wasn't quite sure. So, we tested the program, we did a pilot program, and I always thought that the program itself would be successful. I didn't know, how it would be funded. I didn't know if it could be something under my business, Speak for Success, if it could be in the for-profit realm. There are a whole lot of unanswered questions. So, I shared the idea with friends. We did the first program as a volunteer project. Great friends who were instructors and coaches who, could see this vision and see it working really well. I knew actually in the midst of the first program that it would be transformational, because I saw what was happening for the women who were in the first class, how they were able to start believing in themselves again. They were able to really reframe some of the things that they had gone through and start to really transform them to be something that they had grown from. There's a term called post-traumatic growth. And what it means is that, and this is a small percentage of people who can actually do this, that are able to grow from a trauma, learn from it and use the skills that they gained, in their lives, in the future, to create, really wonderful lives where they feel like they have more of a sense of control. They really build their own resilience. And it's not, of course, not easy to do for anyone who's experienced a traumatic situation, and particularly for someone who was maybe in an abusive relationship for years and years. It's not something that you can just get over. You have therapy, hopefully, you have support, hopefully, of friends and family. And many women who've experienced that really don't, because they end up becoming very isolated for a variety of reasons, including one of the tactics that abusers use is to isolate their victims, is to say, distance them from friends and family and other places where they could have support, to be solely dependent on the abuser. It's part of the power and control. So I think I forgot your question.
So that's okay. So when you launch a woman to go forward, what are you concentrating on teaching that person?
Well, today, what we do most is our foundational program, and it's called Leap to Confidence. Mm-hmm. And here in San Diego, last year, about 200 women went through this program in multiple locations. And, more than anything, confidence is belief and trust in our own capabilities. And that's really what we're helping women rediscover, trust in their own capabilities. What's even beneath that is acceptance of our own worth and value. And so if we start trusting ourselves again, like trusting ourselves like we can make good decisions, good choices. We can start planning for things. We can start taking things, one small step at a time. But beneath that, we have to feel that we're worthy. We're worthy of making our own choices, that we don't have to listen to someone else to dictate what we do and what we choose to do. And
I'm smiling because what you're teaching can apply to any level, any field currently where people are going through a challenge, where it comes back to their self-esteem. So that's why I was asking, what is the process that you take someone with? Because just it happens to be that the world is going through a crisis, that we're all going through similar things. And I wanted to share ways for them to begin to take steps to move themselves forward through the teachings that you have mastered, helping the women to get past what they've lived through, to actually grow through it. So that's why I'm asking, what do you teach? How do you take them through this process?
Yeah.
And I know that you're a nonprofit, obviously, so you can't just send people to you. You actually go through a specific process yourself.
Yeah, well, and it would be hard to walk you through a 7-week program.
Uh-huh.
But I think one of the ways that, anybody can do things right now when we're in an environment where it feels like our lives are, out of control because of the pandemic that we're in, because of the uncertainty that we're in, because of the stress that we're all feeling. So it's really looking at those things that we do have control over, and really trying to focus in areas where we can make choices and we can make decisions. And, if I think about those things, and, as we hear from the women that we serve now, because we're meeting online, we're talking about things like goal setting and, small goals, manageable goals, not, I'm going to start, a huge project that, I wouldn't be able to complete, but, what can you do over the next 30 days? What can you do over the next 7 days? What can you do every day? So those really small goals where we can take, one step at a time and know that we're working towards something, and it is something that we have control over. So it might be for, a lot of people are focusing on their health right now, which is really important, that we're healthy, that we're taking care. Well, I can take control of, what I put in my mouth. And for me, if I'm not aware that, I'm eating and I'm overeating, I might write everything down that I eat during the day so I can actually see what it is, or get an app that will, count my calories for me every day. So if I know I want to be at a certain amount, then I have, accountability in place, as long as I'm truthful.
That's the key.
That app, or that pencil and paper, or perhaps that friend that I call, because now I've got an accountability buddy, somebody that I want to check in with, or, and have that support. Because I think that's something that right now we all need more of. And it's hard because we can't be together in person. So
thank God for these technologies.
Yeah, technology, and picking up the phone or Zoom or listening to podcasts, or, doing those things that help to fuel us. I think right now self-care is, really the most important thing. Caring for ourselves, caring for those we love, being there for our family, for our friends, if we're working, for those we serve. Those are really the most important things right now, because it's hard to see beyond that. But if we're not able to, be healthy in our immediate relationships right now, and it starts with ourselves, then we really can't be there for others. So I think right now that's the most important thing for all of us. And we really look at that in the classes that we teach, how we're caring for ourselves and what choices we can be making.
What keeps you going with your organization, to keep building it, to keep expanding it? What is it that drives you personally?
Well, I can't imagine doing anything else. I've built a fabulous team, so I'm really proud of the work that we do as a team. I'm really proud of the fact that we've got community partners from more than 50 different agencies just here in San Diego County. And those are people who are on the front lines. They're case managers and counselors working with people who are experiencing trauma and crisis and loss. And then they refer women to our program. So they're kind of the doorway that women come to us. And there really is nothing exactly like what we're doing. So, there's big need, and to see lives transformed, to hear incredible stories of resilience, there's really nothing more inspiring than that.
What are some of the
that
great
keeps me
that keeps you going?
Yeah, that all keeps me going.
What are some of the successes that you've seen that you go, wow, look how someone's life has changed?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about one, and she probably won't mind me sharing her name, but her name is Lakeisha. And Lakeisha was in the very first program that we did as a pilot program back in 2008. She was a domestic violence survivor. And if anyone is interested in actually seeing and hearing from Lakeisha, she's in a video at our website. And our website is leap2success.org. And there's a video called Women Empowering Women. And Lakeisha is one of the spokespeople in this short 5-minute video. But she was a domestic violence survivor. She was strong woman who had literally been through hell in this relationship and almost died. And to see her regain that sense of self-confidence and belief and worthiness, and know that just because she had experienced that, it didn't have to define her. She has become such an incredible force of positivity. She's a minister at her church. She's a staff member on our team. And she is, as many of the women who graduate our programs are just, some of the most inspiring people I've ever met. So she's someone that just kind of reminds me every day about that power of resilience, and that no matter what was in the past, we all have it within us to create a new future for ourselves.
I love that idea itself, so that people can understand that you can change. You don't have to be held hostage to anything that has happened in the past. If you take the steps and do the work, you can get to levels of life that you would really enjoy. And I'm assuming, truthfully, that's what the program shows you and helps the women do, is to get from over their past and move on to a brighter future.
Absolutely. And one of those things that's so important is to have support around you. Mm-hmm. So, after a woman goes through our 7-week Leap to Confidence program, we invite her to come back and be part of this community of support. And it used to be once a month, and now it's once a week. Mm-hmm. And it's online via Zoom. And so she can be part of the community and stay in contact and see others, just as we do through webinars and other experiences, seeing people on Zoom. We're able to stay connected in that way. And so even through the physical isolation, that we're experiencing right now, this community can still be connected and supportive.
Now, most of your clients come from referral partners. Was there a reason why you didn't make it like public where someone can come and apply? What was your thinking behind it?
Yeah, it was very intentional. So if someone's been through trauma, they are, abuse, really, difficult situations that impact them, psychologically, emotionally, physically. The healing process takes a different amount of time, a different length of time for people for individuals, and depending on the situations that they've gone through. And that first level of healing really needs a different approach than what we do. We're in a classroom environment. We're not providing one-on-one therapy. But if someone has been through a traumatic situation, domestic violence, struggling from homelessness, we need to know that their basic fundamental needs are met first. Those fundamental human needs, which are safety, shelter, and that we have food to eat, right? If you look at Maslow's hierarchy, those are the foundational levels. So if someone is, still in the abusive relationship and just starting to get help, they need a different type of support, and they need more support to heal and recover from that. And they're not ready yet for a program like ours. So you've got to have those first level needs met first before you can work towards the self-actualization, which is up at the top of Maslow's hierarchy. And what we're teaching are empowerment tools and leadership skills, communication skills, job readiness skills, so someone can get back on their feet when they're ready for that.
Do you have any thoughts of taking this program into a public arena, keeping what you have, but also expanding?
Yeah, we're actually thinking about how we might be able to do that, where people could refer themselves to attend it, or there could be a fee for service type of program. Yeah, we're considering those now.
Because just being out in the community myself and being connected to a lot of people, you have the personal development side where people buy into programs, but taking them through a program of leadership to get them to a level of not just self-confidence, but actually beginning to do things to get to work. You don't find a lot of programs that take you through the whole step. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I looked at your program, I said, oh, look what she's doing. It's kind of interesting to see that. And I could see it expanding, honestly, into lots of areas. So what would you like your program to become as it is right now? Where would you like to be expanding to? Because right now you're in the San Diego area mostly. Mm-hmm. Where would you like to?
Well, I think for us, the next stage of growth is really, outside of the geography of here in San Diego County, whether it's through other parts of California, other parts of the country, but it's still serving women in the same type of situations, because that's what our mission is.
Nice.
So, stay in alignment with our mission, but expand beyond. And we're actually next week starting our very first full online program of Leap to Confidence. So it is filled up, it's ready to go, and it'll be starting on Monday, and they'll be meeting twice a week over 5 weeks.
Wonderful. I was going to ask you about that. What's that like? But you can't tell yet.
We'll see. Well, we ran a test with graduates, and it went well. We learned a lot from it. And so with some modifications, we're rolling it out to brand new participants starting next week. So we're excited for that. And, that really opens up possibilities to serve beyond here in San Diego.
That's the thinking, is that now that a lot of people have been able to see the online possibilities, that it can expand into various areas that you wouldn't have thought of before. How much has running this organization and the learning that you had to go through to become an expert in being a business person, how much has it changed who you are?
I don't think it's changed who I am. I've just added, you go to college and you learn, you don't necessarily become a different person. Maybe you become more developed in certain areas. I think for me, what this has done in terms of where I've had the most growth is really being able to communicate what we do, to communicate it to funders, to communicate it standing on a stage to an audience, to communicate it, on video, to, and to teach others to really focus in developing their communications and their public speaking skills. But for me individually, I think it's given me more courage. I've developed more courage as a result, because it's not about me. It's for the cause, it's for the mission, it's for the organization, it's for the woman who's not yet here. So it takes me out of the picture, makes it a lot easier to speak for the cause.
I love what you said, that you became more courageous, if nothing else, and you learned to say what your cause is all about, so that you can say it whether you're in front of someone or whether you're on video. Because that's one of the challenges with entrepreneurs or people that are launching their businesses, is they can't quite put into words what it is that they're doing. So having figured that out made you more comfortable to continue to expand.
Yeah, well, you've got to be able to articulate it, because I might have this beautiful idea of this vision and what it looks like, but if I can't communicate it to others, I can't bring it to life. I've got to communicate it in such a way that other people see it and feel it and want to be part of it. If I'm building a team, if I'm building an organization, if I'm looking for funding, all of those things, that's really, really important.
How much of your speaking business became a part of what you're doing now in Lead to Success?
Well, really, none of it. None of it. This is an entity unto itself. I brought in some of the content pieces that I had developed into our programs, but running a not-for-profit organization it's very different. You have
that surprised me, honestly. I thought a lot of what you had in your speaking company was an integral part of how you are training the women currently.
It's a small part of it. There's a lot of other content. We've got other coaches and instructors, and really looked at this program as what are the fundamental skills in order to build self-confidence. And that public speaking piece of it is not, it's an important part, but it's not the majority of what it is, because it's really those empowerment skills and tools. So it's one-on-one communications, it's listening, it's other tools. Stress management is a huge one. And this is a good time to share that we actually have developed a webinar series that we offer every week on Tuesdays at noon, called Self-Care in Stressful Times. And we have
open to everyone?
It's open to anyone who would like to come. It's a 30-minute, it's free, it's available. You can find out at the Leap to Success website, or send an email in to be added to the invitation list. But we're teaching mindfulness, and other strategies on how we can manage the stress that's in our lives right now. So teaching many of the tools that we teach in the Leap to Confidence program, and having a practice in each one of these sessions, some type of breathing practice, some type of meditative practice to come home to ourselves, be able to let go of everything that's happening around us, and really just find our center again in the midst of weeks that are very busy and can be very off-centering.
Yes. How can the community support you, Dana? How can they help Lead to Success? What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, Leap to Success exists because of the kindness and the generosity of people in the community who believe in the importance of empowering women. And these people might have known someone who was a domestic violence survivor. They might have grown up in an abusive household, or they just have a heart for helping. And the way that we exist is through donations. So that's the way that people can support the work. They can also be part of our Facebook community. We have a Leap to Success Facebook page. We're also on Instagram, and we put out empowering messages. We feature our graduates in videos, so you can actually see and hear and really be inspired, because these are, the most inspiring women I've ever met. And I see you've got Mother Teresa behind your head there. I mean, talk about a woman who lived a life of service and inspiration to others. These are, extraordinary women.
Love your mission. Love what you're doing. Is there anything that you want to share that I didn't get to ask you that you go, I wish Rima had asked me this?
Well, I'll turn the tables around.
Sure.
And I'll ask you what was your impetus for starting this series?
To actually empower people to become a lot more kinder, more loving, more respectful to themselves and to others, and to really see that everybody's out there learning and growing to become their best. And we don't know everyone's stories. We don't know everyone's backgrounds. The more we can connect and learn about each other, the better we become at being more empathetic and really allowing each person to grow at their rate. That was my whole idea in starting this series, to share what people are doing out there, how they took an idea from something simple, not because they had it all figured out, but they stepped up and they took the steps and they learned and they grew and they're impacting others. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And I think that's a really important point is, we all just start where we are. We start where we are. We start with who we know. We share things out loud that we are passionate about, that we want other people to know about, that we need support with. And ideas can manifest into really beautiful things. But if we don't share them out loud, they never get to see the light of day.
I agree 100%, and definitely about connecting and reaching out to people, because I knew who you are, and we've met before, but I didn't know you personally that well. But I went through a couple of friends and said, I really want to get Dana on this podcast because she's got such a great program. So just those great connections from previous times to get to the people that are powerful, that are caring, that are doing things beyond themselves. So it's great for you to be here. Anything else you want to share out there with the audience and with the listeners?
I think the best thing that I can share is just to say that, if you've got an idea that's not letting you sleep at night, get out of bed. Don't go back to sleep.
Perfectly well said. Thank you so much, Dana. I appreciate you being here. Remember, guys, your attitude in life determines your altitude. So if you want to change how you're living, begin with your attitude and begin learning and growing through everything. Thank you so much for being here. We look forward to seeing you on a different episode. Have a great one. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for Attitude of Altitude podcast. You can find us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook under Planet of One. Please come join us. Leave us comments. Let us know if there's something specific that you'd like us to cover. We are here for you to make sure that you become the best versions of yourself Your attitude determines your altitude in life. Thank you again for joining us.